Now, I know I harped on about the negatives of should, could, and would in episode 2, but in this episode, we're going to be talking about the things we actually, for our own benefit, should be doing. Not should have, or could have, or would have. The right kind of should, and a little bit about why we don't do these things. There are things we all know that we should be doing. Cutting back on caffeine and screen time, probably deleting social media altogether, eating healthier, giving up that addiction. So why don't we do it? What stops us from being consistent when it comes to working toward what we want to achieve? That answer lies in your habits. Your habits reveal what you really think about yourself, your life, and your worthiness. First and foremost, if you're ever going to do the things you should be doing that are healthy and productive for you, you have to start caring about yourself. You have to care enough to start taking care of yourself and doing what you need, what's right for you. To improve how you feel about yourself in the long run, you have to care. You are your own responsibility. What you choose to do is your responsibility. No one else's. This episode is a little different. I don't want to exhaust you with quotes and reasons why these things work because I'm not going to insult your intelligence. We all know the basic things that we don't do that we should be doing. And sometimes we don't do those things because we don't think they're worth it or we don't know how. Nor do we know how easy it can be if you make those things into a habit. But most of all, a lot of us just don't care enough about ourselves, our well-being and our health to feel as though healthy habits are even worthwhile. You might mistakenly think, what a majority of people think, that it takes grandiose, miraculous and spectacular one-off events, that it takes spectacular people to achieve anything worthwhile. Wrong. The person you are is the sum total of what you do now. The person who you want to be is also the sum total of what you do now. Which is a pretty overwhelming thought when you consider that most of our habits are unconscious and maladaptive. The only way to fix that is to develop and implement new and healthy habits. Habits that when accumulated over time become a central part of your identity and self-image. Habits that stack up as evidence to yourself, to the kind of person you are and what you're capable of. So, what is a habit? A habit is a regular practice or tendency, repeated over time, often part of your daily routine. Habit formation is like tilling soil. At first, a tedious but necessary process with many long-term benefits, particularly health and growth. Why? Because tilling soil and developing healthy habits create an environment for growth. You have to give yourself the right environment to feel your best if you're going to love and respect yourself in the long term. Some of us feel sluggish because we're disassociative and have unaddressed trauma. Some of us just need to drink less caffeine and more water and get off the couch. If we go back to the concept of the body-mind, as we discussed in the breakdown episode, physical health is just as important and consequential as mental and emotional health. You have to do both. It's a non-negotiable. Without looking after yourself physically and practically through your daily habits, you're trying to grow in an inhospitable environment. It is important that you create an environment for health and growth. You need to fully connect with yourself again. The best in-depth explanation and options as to why and how would be in Bessel van der Kolk's The Body Keeps the Score, and of course the principal book on habits, James Clear's Atomic Habits. It's part of the reading list already, and I'd recommend you read both. The issue, however, with overdoing the body and habit talk is the inevitable information overwhelm, and decision fatigue stops us from ever even making the first step to start doing something. So I'm going to make this easier for you. I'm going to tell you the essential and most basic things we should all be doing daily, or at least every other day that in the long term increase your mental, physical, and emotional well-being. There's scientific and psychological literature behind all of it, but you know what? I know none of that matters. What matters is deciding for yourself to commit to yourself, to care, to do what you know is good for you, regardless of whether at first you don't feel like you deserve it. Before you become someone you think is deserving of a healthy lifestyle and habits, you have to start acting like it, building the habits of a healthy, deserving person that cares about themselves, and watching over time how this influences your perspective of yourself. The more you do the things that are good for you, the more you respect yourself. You create a healthy environment that fosters that growth and leads to self-love. Your most valuable asset throughout the entire self-love process will be consistency. And this is a good way to practice, by starting small and practicing regularly. To become the person you care about, you have to treat yourself as someone you care about. According to a metric ton of information researched by people smarter than I am, here are the things we should all be and not be doing. We will start with the golden three. These long-term impact your mental and physical health. They're like the well-being trifecta. They are non-negotiable. If you're not doing these things regularly, you can't expect to function at your best. Number 1 would be, at minimum, 30 minutes of walking every day. Number 2, start keeping track of your hormones and vitamins. Drink water, at least a litre a day. Get a blood test. Start taking daily multivitamins. If you're deficient in anything, start supplementing as your health practitioner advises you. Vitamin D, vitamin C, and magnesium are something we're all not getting enough of through environment and food. Particularly for women who struggle with PMS and PMDD, these 3 are lifesavers when it comes to reducing symptoms during the luteal phase, the hardest phase of your cycle. Number 3 would be 20 minutes of quiet time, doing absolutely nothing every day. This isn't meditating. You don't have to quiet your mind or control your thoughts. Just sit there and do nothing. That's your homework for this week, for this month, for the rest of your life. You should be implementing these 3 things into your daily routine. The cumulative effect of all 3 is life-changing. If you do nothing else, do these 3 regularly. Commend yourself every time you do. An issue that arises for many is that we don't prioritize what's good for us over what we prefer. This tends to manifest in our long-term addictions to things like entertainment, our phones, social media, porn and erotica, substances and alcohol, whatever it is that you turn to as a distraction and as a tool to self-soothe. But the truth is, while they may provide temporary relief, long-term all they do is keep you stuck, because it's easier to distract yourself from your pain and your needs than it is to actually face them. We're not doing the shit we need to do because we're too busy sacrificing time we're never getting back to things we shouldn't be doing. It's our maladaptive way of coping with the pressure, stress, and worry in our daily lives, but it takes away the time we need to work on ourselves, to take care of ourselves and self-discover. How many of you have spent hours on your phone and ended up getting barely any sleep, something we all need to function optimally, because you gave your nighttime hours to a device or a website, a book, a substance? In that moment, you picked your addiction over you, and that's what makes it an addiction. Not the substance or habit itself, but our habitual reliance on it. You have to give it up and reprioritize. You first, before the things you soothe yourself with, or give most of your time to. It's nothing to play around with, it's your life, and many of you aren't living it because you're too distracted. That should scare you. It should piss you off, enough for you to take your life back. Anytime you give to your addiction, you take away from yourself. And that's not to say that there isn't the need for recreation and relaxation and zoning out for a while. But be honest about the things that you allow to take priority over what's best for you. The times you've spent hours consuming content instead of journaling or talking about your day like you need to, or forgotten to or not had the time to go for a walk or to the gym, or brush your teeth and shower before you've been lost in fiction, fantasy, or a high. Under every maladaptive coping mechanism, every addiction is a legitimate need. Addiction is legitimate needs being met illegitimately and habitually. Keyword, habitually. Habit. You need to identify what needs you're pacifying rather than dealing with, and figure out how to have courage and actually find a solution for it. Our distractions are all about pain and discomfort avoidance, but you're never going to grow without either of those things. The discomfort and pain of growth at least comes with reward. The pain of stagnation and staying the same has no relief. Do you watch porn and read fan fiction for hours because you're lonely, bored with your life, want to escape mundanity? You then need to be honest about what it is you're feeling, in this case lonely, bored, and craving escape, and how you can meet that need in a way that's life-building. Joining a new hobby, a meetup group, Finally making those plans to travel you've put off for years. Quitting your job and finding something more fulfilling. Maybe you don't feel attractive or fit. You're not going to be either of those things sitting in your room all day playing video games in the dark and never going outside. You can still play video games, but what about doing it after you've gone to the gym, taken a shower and had something good to eat? Do you smoke throughout the day, whenever stress spikes? How about learning to breathe and acknowledge and work through your stress, finding an outlet for it that's healthy for you, like sports, art, or speaking to a professional, or again, quitting your job and finding somewhere else that doesn't stress you into an early grave? Have you considered that if you're someone who is addicted to people, athletes, singers, actors, influencers, any personality, that it may be an indication that your own individual identity isn't secure and developed enough? Because investing time and attention into another human being who often doesn't know you exist, first and foremost, is unhealthy. And it takes valuable time from developing you and your own life because you're busy spectating someone else's. Do you like them because they're living the life you want to live, or they have something you don't, whether that be a personality type, ambition, or talent? Do they bring you joy you don't have in your current life? When we place people on a pedestal, as if they're superhuman and not at first ordinary like the rest of us, you lose sight of the fact that all of these attributes and things you idolize are things you can develop in yourself as well, and don't need to view your fellow human being as an idol or demigod. There's nothing wrong with inspiration and being inspired by someone and their journey and achievements, but there is something wrong with being obsessed with them. There's often many other mental health conditions and unmet needs beneath obsession with other human beings. The same goes for if you over-identify with movements, political groups, and commentators. These aren't things you should be getting your sense of identity from because they are not stable or trustworthy. You're allowed to form your own opinion about things and not agree with something, rather than going along with something all for the sake of holding on to a label and the false sense of identity it gives you. Do the work of forming your own identity. You need to get your priorities in order, and you need to be your main priority, taking care of yourself the right way, facing uncomfortable feelings and trying new things because that's what's best for you and the future you want to have, rather than putting it off, avoiding it, and resigning yourself to the awful fate of one day looking back on your life and regretting all the time you wasted, especially on an addiction that gives you nothing but temporary relief short term. What is it you're trying to soothe instead of deal with? If you're addicted to a substance like drugs or alcohol, get some help. Beneath most addictions is an underbelly of lived experiences and emotions undealt with. You won't change if you don't deal with what's making you stay the same. And that takes courage and a kind of strength you have to dig deep for. But it all begins with entertaining even just a little bit that you should care and that you deserve more. If you're someone who wants to change the world, it starts with you and your health and development as an individual before you're ever capable of productively and sustainably impacting the rest of the world. Your impact begins with one person at a time, beginning with you and doing what's best for you. Now I'm going to get into some other things, and there's quite a few that you would benefit from doing and not doing. You don't have to do it all at once, but you need to start thinking about them and how to implement them into your life. Think of it like a habits cheat sheet. They are all beneficial to you, and it's on you to decide if you want to give yourself the best chance and environment for a healthy and productive life, and where you can maybe fit these things in. Pick a hobby, any hobby that has a social aspect to it, and do it. Dancing, sport, gaming, art, horse riding, cycling. Everyone was a beginner once. Get over yourself, because no one is watching you as closely or judging you as harshly as you assume they are, and you're not there for them, you're there for you. That has to be more important to you than other people's opinion of you. Eat the rainbow. Eat your vegetables and protein, and try and only have high sugary snacks in moderation. If you like fizzy drinks, switch to the sugar-free option. You don't have to cut them out completely. They just shouldn't be your main food group. Food is fuel. It isn't the enemy, but it also isn't your friend and comforter. It shouldn't be what you run to whenever you're in distress. You have to eat the things that are good for you and remove food as an idol or something that controls you in your life. Cut down on caffeine. No, I won't argue with you about it. Cut it back. You know it's bad for you, your sleep, your energy levels. Any addiction, whether it's socially acceptable or not, isn't good for you. Drugs don't help you in the long term. Quit it. Get help. Get sober. Casually binge drinking to relax is not an adequate way to self-soothe. You're not a #wine mum or a beer dad or a party girl or guy. You're alcohol dependent. Start a 12-step program and get support. Now. Figure out what soothes you that isn't toxic, addictive or distracting. Breathing exercises, warm baths or showers, wrapping yourself up like a burrito and crying to sad songs, knitting, a cup of tea, embroidery, Lego, dancing, star jumps, whatever it is that at the height of your emotional distress is able to bring you back down to a regulated place again, that comforts you, that doesn't feed into an addiction like binge eating, binge watching, binge gaming or other numbing behaviours. Get a therapist or get someone to talk to. If you hate the idea of that, start journaling daily. You need to let it out somehow. The key is to be radically honest. Let it all out. This is for no one but you. Even if you have a therapist, journal daily. In The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, she has a practice called morning pages, which is 3 pages of handwritten stream of consciousness on paper every morning. It's what I do every day. You can start small, even a page or a few sentences daily about what's on your mind, how you're feeling. This will help you get relief and also help you to get to know yourself. What you write might surprise you. However, the key to this is withholding judgment. Journaling is for venting and exploring. You might sound whiny and petulant, angry or perverse. Well, good thing the pages are just for you. Judging how you're feeling isn't going to help you process. The point is to acknowledge it and write it down and be honest. Honesty with yourself is foundational to having a healthy view and relationship with yourself. Ditch the people and things that make you feel like shit where you can. If you can't get away from them for whatever reason, minimize your exposure to them or it. It's toxic for you. Act like it. These things have a proven track record of improving your mental and physical health long term. There's no point boring you with the research as to why. You either do it or you don't. Your choice. And if you are beginning to choose you and what's best for you, here is a good place to start building habits to reinforce it. Now, what not to do. Stop doing whatever it is you do to distract yourself from dealing with your pain or problems. Food, drinking, TV, gaming, books, none of these things are bad in isolation, especially if you enjoy them, but they don't serve you when they take up a majority of your time, and you know you use them to numb yourself. What I'm saying isn't give these things up. I'm saying every time you're about to indulge in them, first ask yourself, am I doing this because I want to and enjoy it, or because I want to distract and numb myself? If the answer is distract and numb, put it away and sit down and write out how you're feeling and what you think you need to do about it first. Stop watching porn. Stop watching porn. It's bad for you. It's bad for others. That means stop reading it as well. Yes, you with the collection of erotica and hentai mags and explicit fanfic recs. Sex is a great thing, but it shouldn't take up that much time or brain space in your everyday life. It's rotting your brain. Stop it. It's an addiction and you're using it to self-soothe. Get help. Get off social media or limit your time on it. We all know it depletes our attention span, messes with our ability to process dopamine and serotonin, and makes us paranoid and insecure. We know this. Get sleep. Go to bed at a reasonable hour. Stop trying to find yourself in relationships. If you're dealing with self-hatred and are single, maybe even in a relationship, you are vulnerable. You might not like the sound of that, but it's true. The kind of healthy, life-giving, reciprocal love you deserve is on the other side of you fully believing and living your true value. When you know who you are and what you want. Heartbreak doesn't make you love yourself more. You need to not be thinking about someone else's opinion of you and their needs before you've strengthened your opinion about yourself and learned to meet your own needs. The reason why I am being super brief and direct about these things is they are proven to help you, and no amount of convincing and statistics and sugarcoating is going to prove it. It's on you to build those habits, to work on creating that consistency. None of these things have to be done overnight. Little and often is the mantra and the goal here. For example, a walk for 30 minutes once or twice a week is still better than no walk at all. Choosing to journal instead of binge eat at least on a handful of occasions is better than not choosing differently at all. The more you do it, the stronger your ability to do them gets, because you see you can do it. You build belief that you can do it, and with that comes the self-respect, the routine you need to build a healthy life on, and the self-love comes from that. When you see you are able to exercise consistency and habits in the small but impactful things, it builds your confidence and self-efficacy when it comes to achieving bigger goals you have. Again, there's so much more about this that's worth reading in Atomic Habits, the book, so please give that a read. These things help you love yourself because they make you feel better. Full stop. Achievable goals are the best kind of goals, so start there and start small, and build yourself up. This is still all about building trust with yourself. When you prove to yourself you can be consistent in the small things, you equip yourself with the respect and belief that you can try the bigger things, that you can try and actually succeed. It doesn't have to be something crazy. The best results are always achieved when you're consistent and realistic. A 30-minute walk and getting a litre water bottle to track your water is not earth-shattering, but the results of doing so for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and then beyond are life-changing. So get to it. You're going to need this stuff when you're dealing with all the shit from life, work, and if you're there yet, therapy. A sense of routine, control, and progress you can track. If you refuse to do any of these things and remain the same, you can't complain. So invest in you and be consistent. When you are able to be consistent, commit, and prove to yourself you can be consistent, you begin to accumulate evidence of your worthiness of respect for no one but yourself. There are days where I feel awful, and the fact that somehow I've still gone on my daily walk, journaled, and done my morning pages gives me a sense of satisfaction and feeling of well-being that stops me from spiraling into self-accusation and disrespect. The added benefit is that all these things help me and improve my physical and mental health, even when I don't feel like it. I treat myself still as someone worthy of health and being taken care of, and that has grown self-love, because taking responsibility and respect are integral parts of healthy love. I'll leave you with these standalone quotes from the opening chapters of Atomic Habits that are significant to us here. Changes that seem small and unimportant at first will compound into remarkable results if you're willing to stick with them for years. We all deal with setbacks, but in the long run, the quality of our lives often depends on the quality of our habits. With the same habits, you'll end up with the same results, but with better habits, anything is possible. On page 15, Why Small Habits Make a Big Difference. It is so easy to overestimate the importance of one defining moment and underestimate the value of making small improvements on a daily basis. Improving by 1% isn't particularly notable. Sometimes it isn't even noticeable, but it can be far more meaningful, especially in the long run. The difference a tiny improvement can make over time is astounding. Here's how the math works out. If you can get 1% better each day for 1 year, you'll end up 37 times better by the time you're done. Conversely, if you get 1% worse each day for 1 year, you'll decline nearly down to 0. Habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. The same way that money multiplied through compound interest, the effects of your habits multiply as you repeat them. On page 41, you have the power to change your belief about yourself. Your identity is not set in stone. You have a choice in every moment. You can choose the identity you want to reinforce today with the habits you choose today. And this brings us to the deeper purpose of this book and the reasons habits matter. Building better habits isn't about littering your day with life hacks. It's not about flossing one tooth each night, or taking cold showers each morning, or wearing the same outfit each day. It's not about achieving external measures of success like earning more money, losing weight, or reducing stress. Habits can help you achieve all of these things, but fundamentally they are not about having something. They are about becoming someone ultimately. Your habits matter because they help you become the type of person you wish to be. They are the channel through which you develop your deepest beliefs about yourself. Quite literally, you become your habits. Thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast. Good luck. And listener, if no one's ever told you and if no one ever meant it, you deserve love. Now go love yourself. Habitually. As always, the episode resources and references, disclaimers and social media links will be in the show notes and description. The uncensored audio podcast episodes are available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Details on how to support the podcast are also listed in the show notes and description if you feel so inclined. If you would like access to the uncensored vodcast of the episode you just watched, as well as journal prompts and reading material, this is available through Patreon membership. Sign up to the mailing list to keep up to date with what happens next with the channel and the future of the podcast. All of this information and more about us can also be found on the Scattered Seeds website. Bye.